What did I teach you? You are no canoe. No, you're a number one. I can't hear you. You found the Duke of New York. You're a number one.
Peace, everyone. I hope all is well. Hope everybody can hear me. If so, just type it into the chat. Let me know. Islam, that's what's up. Hope everybody's been well. Another fine day in the apocalypse for us all as we move closer and closer to the unwinding of these parasites that seem to be destroying everything around us. Definitely want to give respect and thanks to everybody that's been tuning in and everybody that's been participating. I really appreciate it. Just wondering if anybody has any questions about anything before we start. As well as everybody that's been helping spread the word on the channel. I think I got the hype button on there now. So if anybody feels like they can, if you could definitely hype it, I definitely appreciate it. It helps spread it out and gets everybody, participating. So I greatly appreciate that. Also, everybody that has been signing up to become members, I really appreciate it. As well as those people who've been supporting the app, the ADOT app. Got some new stuff up there. So you can check it out. Some of the PDFs that I've been showing over the past couple of months is up there now for free. You can just read them and download them, I believe, if you like. Yeah, if anybody has any questions about anything before we start, you can ask them now. Just type it into the chat. Also, please make sure that you're muted, just so that way there's no reverb or anything like that. Just in case, so everybody can hear everything clearly. There's one thing somebody asked me in one of the comments. They asked me, well, what's the difference between what you consider witchcraft, Freemasonry, magic, and this type of stuff? And, what about, like, when you were talking about, like, freezing the name and all of that, is that considered witchcraft or something like that? Like, you gotta understand, there's certain things that were intrinsically a part of our culture prior to all of this modern understanding as to what constitute what and who participates in what. And a lot of it came in the form of what eventually became initiation. Like, one of the reasons why the so-called small hats didn't like Yeshua, for instance, was the fact that they felt that he was basically an Egyptian magician. And basically their understanding was, well, everybody in Egypt did magic, so he was really not doing nothing really special. So he couldn't have been a so-called Messiah, if you're into that. I'm not saying that you should believe in the concept of Messiah and all that. I'm just saying that this is what they did the knowledge to and how they kind of rationalize stuff. So the thing about it is that we as a people don't understand the fact that we are the conglomeration of a lot of different energies that consistently manifested in the form of the arm, leg, arm, head, the way that we understand it. Meaning that we are the sum product, right, of the ancestors and the people that came before us. You know what I'm saying? So because we are the progression, right, of the literal past becoming the present, leading into the future, we have a lot of residual energy of our past and of our accumulated experiences that manifest through our melanin and our perception, you know what I'm saying, of what we consider or what we would consider spirituality. You know what I mean? So the difference, let's say, between spirituality, right, and religion is that spirituality does not require an a tenant way of expressing itself. Okay. So like you can be spiritual, right, without having to, let's say, learn a catechism. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to follow a specific doctrine, because when you get to religion, you're dealing with doctrine. You know what I'm saying? You're dealing with how the doctrine of spirituality is given to those who want or assume to practice it. Okay. So with that, you bring in a system that is regaled or is dependent upon people prescribing how that system is supposed to be practiced to you. So, like people, let's say in the Moorish Science Temple of America, like if you trying to become a sheik or take some position within that form of religious society, right, or government, you have to be taught how to properly open and close the temple. You know what I mean? What the tenets are, like what the I'm gonna say rules, but what the actual practice of the doctrine is. Like anything that you engage yourself with in that context, you understand? You have to express or learn how that is expressed within the framework of that organization. You understand? So that is a form of religious practice. Whenever you're bringing in doctrine, and that doctrine is expressed in a certain way or has to be expressed in a certain way for the people of that movement to be able to understand how that movement works. You see what I'm saying? That is the basis of how that doctrine is expressed by those who practice it. You understand what I'm saying? So, with that being said, there is a specific way that religion is expressed outside of what we would consider spirituality. Spirituality does not require a certain doctrine or specific way of expression. You understand? Without a specific way of expressing itself. That spirituality is based on you. Like you might feel that going down to the lake, right, and putting flowers in the lake is a form of a spiritual practice for you. That when you express that, you feel in tune with whatever circumstance or whatever people or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying, that you're expressing in that moment. And that is not a wrong thing, right? Because that's not something that somebody specifically taught you how to do. That's what you intrinsically, inherently felt like. When you do this, you receive a certain aspect of spiritual peace. You see what I'm saying? That is how you're expressing your spirituality in that moment. And there's nothing, let's say, negative about that. You know what I'm saying? Because there's nobody being hurt. There's no bloodletting within that practice. You understand what I'm saying? So because you do that, it doesn't mean that you are somehow like trying to, I don't know, bring about some sort of power outside of the peace that you feel when you put the flowers in that water, and then, you know what I'm saying, feel that calmness. See what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Like that's a spiritual practice for some people, but that does not uh make those people who are doing that entrained or involved in some sort of right per se, because it's not necessarily prescribed by any given people or thing. It's just that's what they choose to do. Now, if you organize that, you see what I'm saying? If you're organizing that now in the concept by which now you are bringing a bunch of people down to the water with you, and then you all are, let's say, reciting some sort of rite or reciting some sort of incantation or whatever it is, that's now borderlining, that's now you in a sense borderlining yourself into now a religious practice, because now you're bringing about a concert of people, right, into this spiritual practice with you that are now engaging in a form of ritualistic procedure that is not just about your spiritual fulfillment or outcome. Okay? That's what I think we should understand when we start dealing with religion um as opposed to like a spirituality. If we were to give ourselves a understanding of which is which, you know what I'm saying? That's how I would express it or identify it to somebody who, let's say, was to just ask me, well, what's the difference between, you know what I'm saying? The organization of the action is what makes it one or the other. You know what I'm saying? So that spiritual practice, right, that eventually becomes, let's say, a religion is not something that is necessarily agreed upon by the religious context of what happened to our people. What happened to our people was that we had certain spiritual affinities and spiritual things that we was about. And then after a certain time, other people came and wanted to change that within us, right? So that way we would follow more what they wanted our practice of spirituality or whatever to be. And thus that changed the complexion of how we, right, dealt with whatever it is that we wanted to deal with. Like everybody brings, like when I brought up the so-called Egyptians or the Comesians, right? After the onset of all of those different cultures that came to exist and live amongst them, right? Because they saw how spiritually gifted and adept that these people were to such a degree that they actually wanted to become those people. You understand? And then once they got the ability to be of those people, they decided that they would then supplant them, right? And then they would now set themselves up to be what they saw that these people were, because they knew that they could never be that themselves. Yet they could not specifically do away with all of them, because if they were to do that, then that means a lot of the rights and a lot of the original ways that these things were practiced would be lost. You understand? And they didn't want to lose everything. They just wanted to be the center of what they saw these people were. So when we say, oh, well, the Greeks came in and they basically just adopted everything they saw the Egyptians doing, like that's true to a degree. But when we speak of these Greeks or Creeks or whatever you want to call them, these people were also melanated in the beginning. So this was one melanated society moving on to another melanated society. And after they received enough of what they considered the information that they could assimilate enough of it for themselves, they then decided that they no longer needed the parent culture, right, that taught them all of this to specifically do that. And by the time that this happened, the parent culture, i.e., the so called Egyptians, if we want to call them that, they themselves had fallen so far from their original position, right, that they basically welcomed, in a sense, the decline of their empire and were okay with being, by this time they had fallen so far from what they were, they had basically assimilated all of the other cultures. But what they always had was that priesthood, right? That priesthood that initially set up what the parameters of the religion, of the custom, of the magic, right, of the practices that these people were dealing with for so long. They knew that at least with the priesthood they would be able to maintain a certain degree of control in whatever society was going to take over, you see what I'm saying, after they themselves had been conquered or absorbed into whatever nation it was, whether it was the Macedonians, whether it was the so-called Romans, whether it was the Nubian. You understand what I'm saying? Like whoever it was going to be, everybody that was coming in there wanted the aspect or wanted to be able to partake in the aspect of what they saw that culture was producing. And what it produced was a form of magic that they literally coveted so much that they wanted to become and be that. So by the time, let's say, we get to the modern era, the modern 1900s and stuff, in the Victorian era, when these Caucasians and these people have finally been let out the caves and they finally was able to now absorb themselves and regale themselves with the idea that they somehow were or could be connected to these people, what they started to do was literally eat the remnants of the cultures, the remnants of those people. They literally began to eat them. Like one of the staples in the Victorian era diet of these people we talk about was mummies, was eating of the dead. You understand? So when we talk about the cannibalistic nature that we see these people exhibiting and stuff today, this is just a byproduct of a generation of them that were raised on eating people. You understand? And they then turned it into a religious custom. You understand? That they then would apply to any of whom they considered the remnants of those people, right? And they participated in the bloodletting ritual sacrifice as well as cannibalistic eating of the remnants of those people, because they could only eat but so many mummies before there was no mummies left for them to really consume like that. So they had to start to apply that now to the living remnants of those people who were us. So when we read the books like Delectable Negroes and stuff like that, this is why this became such a big thing amongst their culture, right? But like any culture, these people were still dealing with the idea that this was somehow giving them spiritual power. So in order to do that properly, they had to be guided, see, with a priesthood that would allow them the false luxury of feeling like they were justified, or that there was a specific way that this practice needed to be continued. You understand? This is why they created so many different aspects of ritual murder, ritual sacrifice. You see what I'm saying? That was then codified in these practices that they themselves, became so prolific in. You understand what I'm saying? This is why cannibalism and things like that is so much still a part of their culture. And because they were Freemasons and they were involved with these different types of orders, they wanted to use different ways to justify them doing that. So one of the practices of them is to practice the idea of inversion, right? In which they literally blame you for how they act. So whatever it is that they are doing, they put on you as if you're doing that. You understand? They learn that in things like the Talmud and things like that, which again is just a bastardized version of the Bible and the Egyptian Book of the Dead. You know what I'm saying? It's a huge justification as to why they are better than God, than the true and living God itself. You understand? This is how they justify themselves as being God of this earth, because we know that the what the Arabs would call Iblis, right? And what they would call the Dajjal, or what we would call Satan. Everybody agrees that that entity is the entity that basically rules this world. So if that's the case, then that means if they are acting as that, you see what I'm saying? They are acting in the capacity of the adversary, which gives them the right to do the things that they're doing, because then that allows them the understanding that they are playing a role in the cosmic order of things. You see what I'm saying? They have just taken on the role that they themselves have functioned from. And when we say, oh, well, the white man is the devil, or this person is the devil, that is giving them the permission, right, to go along with the story that this is who and what they are. It validates their position, you see what I'm saying, of being this fictitious demon, right? But then when we get into other so-called religions like Ifa and stuff like that, and you start to research what Ishu, for instance, is, you know what I mean, which is basically is an equivalent to the devil, right? Um, or Anansi, right? These are trickster gods. These are gods because all gods play tricks on the mortals. You understand what I'm saying? Um, Even Yeshua, like when they say Yeshua rose from the dead and Mary seen him, right? He told Mary, yo, don't tell anybody that you seen me yet. You know what I mean? Just act like I'm still dead, and I'm gonna be out here doing what I gotta do, and then I'll come back and let you know when it's okay to let everybody know. You know what I'm saying? Like they all play tricks on everybody. Zeus would always come in different forms when he would go try to rape and have sex with people. He would come as a fawn, he would come as an eagle, he'd be a lion, right? He'd take whatever form, and he got off, the god Zeus I'm talking about. He, not the network, he would get off on having sex, you know, with all of these different females, and driving his main shorty, who was Hera, where we get the word horror from, drive her crazy to the point where she would then, instead of punishing him, she would always punish whatever he produced from these other women. You see what I'm saying? Which is basically a allegory or play on how women act when they catch their man and stuff cheating today. You know what I'm saying? They don't never really get into the other female that's participating in it. They basically say, oh well, it's all men are like this, and it's messed up, and none of them are trustworthy, and this and that. But this man didn't cheat by himself. Like he actually used another woman, right, to help him reach his sexual goals. A lot of times these men wind up having relations with their woman's friend. You know what I'm saying? And so, as messed up and everything as that is, because the man is the one that has the relationship, he's usually the one that's blamed. But again, it takes two to tango. It's not like he's just doing this all by himself. He is being supported in this endeavor by someone, a lot of times, who is actual friends, like I said, with the person, which then plays out this ritual that we see happening over and over again. One of those, we just saw that with the whole Meg Thee Stallion distraction that they just put out here with this dude Clay Thompson, right? Remember, Zeus created Hercules. You know, he was half god or whatever, but a lot of times these gods would imbue their essence into clay, right? And so the clay, which is then molded into a god, let's say Clay Thompson being a so-called man of high value, as they say, right, is now representing Zeus in this manner. And then he is now with Megan, who was representing Hera in this, right? And then this, what? It triggered all of these females, right? All over the country to then somehow want revenge on the men that they themselves are with, that they don't have no problems with. But because they have this fake solidarity with this celebrity that doesn't really even exist, it's not like Meg Thee Stallion is a real person. You understand what I'm saying? It's a real person in the context that it's living, right? It's breathing, but it is a commodity that is used to mass control women of the same ilk who have fallen so far that they themselves have become willing participants in open prostitution rings and are willing to defile themselves in order to achieve or vicariously live through somebody that they don't even know who that individual themselves, based upon what they've said out of their own mouth, has cheated over multiple times, right? With individuals over and over and over and over again, whose every breath on music, right? Which all music allegedly goes to the throne of God, right? So the more positive or the more negative you have it or you put it out there, this is what you're putting out there. This entity constantly does this, constantly defiles, right, itself and encourages the defilement of women more than men ever would. Yet it is rewarded for this. You understand what I'm saying? Over and over again by the same people, right? Because they have created an idol of this thing. And thus, through the idol, they've created a transference ritual in which the women themselves, right, want to defile themselves the same way that this person did in order to be what they refer to, let's say, as a hot girl. So, hot meaning flame, meaning fire, reminiscent to hell. You understand what I'm saying? Which, again, is a realm that was ruled at one time by Hera, right? Because of what happened with this nigga Zeus driving her crazy with all of the cheating, right, that he is doing, right? Isn't there a network called Zeus Network where all they are on there or what they call baddies, right? Who constantly beat each other up and slam each other to the ground and threaten to kill one another and all of this. There's no men, let's say, forcing them to do that. This is what they themselves are doing. And of all of the names to name a network, why would so-called melanated people, right, allow themselves to name themselves after a so-called Greek demon, right? Let's take it out of the fact that Greek and all that shit don't even exist really, but just the fact that they would even identify themselves with that. Why is that a thing? Because through the so-called Divine Nine situations, right? These blacks have been pledging themselves to Greek deities, i.e., demons, for the past 150 years. You understand? So you see what I'm saying? How it comes full circle. How a spiritual practice then can be diverted or perverted metaphysically, metaphorically, into a circumstance now where these people are now actively participating in the moral degradation of not only themselves but of their entire archetype. See what I'm saying? You're talking. So when you say a hot girl, when you're talking about a 304, you're talking about an archetype. You're talking about a Jezebelian archetype, a harlot Semiramis archetype that is used specifically to be the mortar, right, for a temple dedicated to the degradation of an entire species. You understand what I'm saying? Because these are the people that we are supposed to be following as the mothers of civilization. You understand what I'm saying? It's bigger than just what it is they're doing. You're watching a ritualistic play. and the psychological breakdown, the psychotic break of females who have idol worshipped, right? Something that was created for them, an egregore, right? Because a stallion is a male horse. Okay? Think about that. A stallion is a male horse. And so here's this big 6 foot straight clavicle so-called female, right? That women themselves have identified with so much that they are willing to destroy their own relationships to show some sort of solidarity to someone who has agreed to help destroy them and their children. Do you understand what we're talking about? This is how an archetype can be used to supplant people from their natural state and turn them into weapons of mass destruction amongst themselves by using lust demons to do so. Here's another example of what I'm saying. So, like I said, there's a whole push, right? On one side, you have people talking about how white people, white men, white supremacy, like I said last week, is like the buzzword that they've been using against you for so long that you have accepted it as a willing living truth, which then makes it true, right? It doesn't mean that it is true. It just means that it has been turned into a truth that you and I have been forced to accept over the past 80 years since it's been used. During Jim Crow, the term white supremacy didn't exist during the time of Jim Crow, when they was actually doing it. Like when it was actually being performed, the term white supremacy didn't exist. Think about that. It only existed after a specific time. Just like I said, when the J came into existence, like these things happen at a certain time frame way after the actual act of what they represented actually existed, actually came into being. You understand what I'm saying? So what we're really dealing with is a form of deep psychological social engineering that is being used to help perpetuate an idea that Caucasian people are superior to you and I. You understand? This is an idea. It is not a truth. It is not a living truth by which your whole life is based on. This is something that you agree to, and thus then it becomes true for you. You understand what I'm saying? This is not something that is actually true. This is something that is activated once you accept it to be true. Therefore, it is a form of social engineering. You dig what I'm saying? This is socially engineered for you to believe. And then certain circumstances are implemented to make you believe that it is that because you seem to see it play out in the real world. But that's not really true because most of the niggas that's using this and doing this are actors. They're not even real people. They're actors paid to make you believe that they really believe that. You understand? Now, I'm not saying that racism is not real. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the idea that Caucasian people are supreme is a lie. You dig? So when you say that white supremacy is the cause of this, this, and that, then you are agreeing that Caucasian people are superior to you because you're using the term white supremacy as an idiom to identify a core belief. You understand? There's a difference between saying something is true and something actually being true. There's two different things. But the more you agree that something is true, the more the brain works to make it true for you because your brain wants you to have what you want. It does not know the difference between what is reality and what is not. That's for your spirit to discern. You understand? That's your spirit discerning what is real and what is not your brain. Your brain is there to actualize what it is you perceive to be real or not. But it does not make a distinction between the dream and the reality. It only works to enforce the reality that is manifested from the dream, from the idea. Everybody understand what I'm saying? So if you believe that the white man is the devil, and don't get me wrong, he'll do as the white man being the devil, he'll do as the devil till the real one get here. But it don't mean the fact that he is the ultimate devil. What it says is that it has regaled itself to that role, to that archetype in this physical reality, which then allows us then to, with its actions, to associate it as such. But at one point, the white man wasn't even on the planet. So who was the devil then? You understand what I'm saying? Who was the devil before the devil? And then if that's the case, who is the devil? Who is Satan? Who is Lucifer? Right? These are all names that are given to represent a placeholder for a certain understanding or certain thing that we have come to accept in this reality. A universal boogeyman that allows us to point the finger at something other than ourselves for helping manifest this thing. You dig what I'm saying? Yes, it says the number of the beast is man. 666, right? 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, right? That's melanin, right? We read that in the Black Dot, in the Richard King book, which became the premise of modern science. Modern science, graphene, all of that shit is based on the books that we, people in the conscious community, already wrote. And they actualized into reality by basing nanotech on how melanin itself functions. They used to have melanin conferences every year, and no black people, so no melanated people could go to these conferences. This is facts, like, you know what I'm saying? So we can't constantly try to give energy to these things and these people without turning that energy back on ourselves, and understanding that the less we practice indifference to what these other people are doing, the more likely what they're doing is going to affect us, because we're not practicing the laws that we created in order to protect ourselves from that type of invasion. So like, there are people that practice voodoo, right? And in voodoo, you sacrifice animals. You give blood sacrifices to animals with animals, meaning that you kill them. So ultimately, what you're doing when you say, okay, I'm doing this as an offering to this deity, to this non-physical thing that may or may not exist, right? You are physically killing something, right? Not even to sustain yourself, meaning you're not killing this thing so that way you can eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not killing this thing so that way you can feed your family. You're killing this thing because you want some sort of spiritual power that you feel that you cannot attain without murdering this innocent thing, right? Now, is that evil? right? That is for the practitioner to justify, because it's always has to be a justification. Like, it's one thing to pick up some meat from the butcher, right? Because the butcher is cutting this thing up, right? But it's another thing to go and actually butcher this thing yourself. You understand what I'm saying? It's a whole nother thing to have that chicken in your hand, or have that goat in your hand, or have that lamb in your hand and literally slit its throat. You understand? Not to sustain your family, not to eat, not to do that, but to offer it to something that is not in your physical space, in order to gain some sort of so-called spiritual power that you feel that you would not have unless you took the life of this innocent thing. Like I said, it's one thing if you're doing this to sustain your family, to eat and all that. It's a whole nother thing when you're doing this to gain some sort of spiritual power over somebody or something. You understand what I'm saying? And to constantly do that, and to have that as in the forefront of your mind, I'm doing this for spiritual power over something. That satiates a part of the ego. You understand? That then gets a taste for it. You understand? Because now the sacrifices got to get bigger and bigger. Start with one chicken, now I need 2 chickens. Now I need 3 chickens. You understand what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, when I used to be a practitioner, I never cut no chickens and stuff like open, but like when I used to have altars and stuff like that. At one point, the altar started one way, and as I got more understanding of it, and it grew, and it started to grow and grow to the point I had an altar that was basically almost as big as a wall. You understand? But in actuality, that's what it was. It was a bunch of images and statues and stuff on a wall. You understand? And so after a while, it got so big and thing that when I felt like buying the candles and the incense and all of these things, right? As a form of spirituality, because this is how I'm expressing my spirituality at this point. Because, I grew up, we grew up in this conscious community watching Bobby and all this other type of stuff. And so, you get to a point where you start to look at it and be like, well, I'm doing all of this and I'm spending all of this bread and I'm doing all this, but it's like, I don't feel like none of this stuff is working, right? And then that's when I realized, well, if I'm doing this to gain something, right, that I don't feel that I can get from just me being myself, then what am I really doing? You understand what I'm saying? What am I really participating in? Who is really receiving this energy if I'm not even seeing it manifest the way that it used to? Or even when it did manifest, who's to say that it's manifesting based on this? You know what I'm saying? Everything in magic, when you start to really research it and read it, like I used to read books by Franz Bardon, and other so-called like Cagliostro and these types of books, right? Even in Faust, in reading in Faust and all of that. Everything in magic is based on intent. Your intent has to be clear. If it's not clear, then the practitioner may go through instances in which they feel what they're doing is not working. So when I started to really analyze what my intent of this is, right? Why am I not feeling like I'm receiving what I'm supposed to receive? That's when I'm starting to realize, like, my intent is off. And then in analyzing the intent, what am I really striving to achieve? And in the end, I realized power, right? That's ultimately what powerless people want. But if you're doing all of this to achieve power, then what you're saying is you don't have any. You understand? Just like when you say that this is white supremacy and I'm being oppressed by the white man, then what you're saying is he has the ability to oppress you. You understand? This is the trap. This is how they trap you. This is how they trap you. This is how you become a soldier for something that you don't even realize that you're in a war with. So, like, look, it says, this is disturbing. I once had a white guy tell me that black women are the easiest bought when on the planet because they view white men in a way that not even the white women view them as. Black women view white men as the greatest men on earth. Meanwhile, white men on X are discussing owning black women as sex slaves. Hundreds of people are liking these tweets. It only goes to show that white women want slavery back. Sick people. What does it say? True. I will be breeding her twice a day and all that shit. They're going on watching different black women talk about things, and then they're bringing these pictures into their group talking about how they would breed them and how they would turn them into sex slaves. These same white men that these so-called black women is talking about is the best thing since sliced bread. Boom. Just the other day, this bitch worked for JP Morgan and Chase. She's being sued because she was using her power over a so-called black man, right, to force him to become a sex slave for her. Hajini then allegedly removed her shirt, and this bitch is a white Arab. She passing. Removed her shirt, began fondling her breasts, and racially insulted Doe's wife, remarking, I bet your little Asian fishhead wife doesn't have these cannons. And the complaint reads, Doe claims she then forcibly removed his pants and performed oral sex on him again against his will. He continued to protest and began. The complaint says that she repeatedly reminded him that she owned him and that she controlled his promotion and bonus, which he understood as a threat that she would block both if he refused. Doe claims that Hajani propositioned him for oral sex in the office on one occasion, birthday BJ for the brown boy, my little brown boy, right? And don't get it twisted. It go both ways. The black men, the so-called black men, is just as insane, who feel that because this white woman is so-called treating him in a manner that seems respectful and all of that, that they're not still dealing with some sort of psychosis or some sort of mental deficiency, because they are. They are, especially if they're raised by that. Like a lot of Caucasian people, a lot of so-called melanated white women who get into these types of relationships are also doing it to prove to themselves that they're not like the racists that they were born with, right? Which means then that part of the reason why you're with this person is to prove something to yourself. See? A psychosis, a pathology that is agreed upon because you're trying to prove that you're better than what it is that you know you're not. Doe says he received a voicemail from someone claiming to be a manager at JPC telling him he wasn't welcome because of his skin color, adding that people don't want you or your kind here. See, do you think you're going to be in a good standing if you don't have me in your corner? You really think that we want some brown boy Indian leading organizations? If you don't fuck my brains out tonight, I'm going to sabotage your promotion. Where does the term sabotage come from? It comes from Sabbatean. Who was the Sabbateans? The Talmudic small hats, right? That were using sexual immorality to destabilize whole cultures. Then you got a nigga like this nigga, Don Lemon, right? Ultimate Boule says that white supremacy is the leading thing destroying the world. Meanwhile, every night he go back home and suck this dude off. It's not even about the sex. It's about the hypocrisy. You understand? It's about the hypocrisy. For instance, Vlad TV, right? People watch Vlad TV. Everybody know Vlad's a culture vulture. Everybody know that, but everybody still watch it because some of the interviews are good, right? Well, a lot of people don't know Vlad is married to a so-called black woman, right? And what he does is he's able to get away with a lot of stuff because he used her as a shield for his racism. By putting her in charge of HR or whatever, when he goes about the little snide things and shit like that he be saying and doing, he's able to make it happen because he got this black woman that he can always go fall back to and say, oh, well, you know, she say it's okay, so that's it. Like he did a whole thing when Kevin Samuels, blessed the devil's alive, and he was saying, my wife told me that you know, if I was to have, I can't have Kevin Samuels on here because if he do, then that's it. She gonna leave me and this and that. Right? Why? Why would she hate Kevin Samuels? Like, why, as somebody who's already married to a Caucasian Russian, so probably small hat, why would you care what Kevin Samuels say, especially if your big white man, your big burly stink white man is out here basically making mad money in the culture? Why would you care? Because they always care, because they know what they doing. Like the white, like we just read, white so-called black women bring their black women view white men in a way that white women don't even see them as. You understand? They don't even be checking for these niggas like that. And they birthed them. You know what I'm saying? They make white men. Right? So when you, as a melanated woman, is constantly talking shit about how whack black men are, how disgusting black men are, and this, and that, right? And then you're also saying out of the other mouth how great white men are. You know what the white people are hearing? The white people are hearing the black woman saying she believes that white women make better men than she does. You heard me? She is saying by her own mouth, because these white men are so much better than these so-called black men, that something about the white woman makes better men than she as a so-called melanated woman does. Do you see how they don't even understand the pathology that they themselves spout every day? See, when white women get with black men, they don't go to their white women and say all of that. They just go do it. You know what I'm saying? They just go do it. They say, oh, this black man into me, I'm gonna be with him. He don't got no money, it don't even matter. This is my project. This is my black man. You understand what I'm saying? And they go full force in it. He don't gotta have money, he don't gotta have status, he don't gotta have nothing. All he gotta be is hers. Cause you know what the white woman say? With me, he'll get the money. You heard? Because she don't look at herself as coming from a deficit. Because she herself, who is the first victim, if we're going to deal with it, of so-called white supremacy, she don't even see herself like that. Because she's already white. So she can't equate it to herself. So what she do is turn it into a patriarchy thing. Who started talking about the bringing down the patriarchy and all of that? White women, not so-called black women. Black women only started talking about the patriarchy in the past 40 years. Go back into time. Go back into the 50s, into the 60s, into the 40s. These so-called black women wasn't using words like that to describe their man. Because they was down for their man. Because their man was in charge of the home. And they had a whole society around them in which they could see themselves in it. Segregation didn't exist to keep us out of white society. That existed because we were on our own and thriving and being better than them. We had more money than them. We had more morality than them. So the white man couldn't allow his own people to see us living better than them. So they had to come up with rules and shit to keep these savage Caucasian people in a manner that could keep them under control until they could dumb us down to the point that they then could get us to give up what we had, so we would think that what they had was better. Social engineering, y'all. That's what this is. That's what all of this racism shit is. It's about transferring ownership, changing the complexion of something and making you think that what is good is bad and what is bad is good. And it worked. These niggas is white supremacy. You want to talk about white supremacy? These type of niggas. This is from a clip I saw on Facebook. Somebody posted. These dudes is taking money. These melanated people right here is taking money from these niggas right here to not only destabilize us, but to destabilize Palestinians or whoever, but to destabilize us. Remember, the secretary or whatever the bitch name was in Israel said that the greatest threat to Israel was the so-called American, young so-called black Americans. And these niggas right here, these sellout boule niggas right here, they are supporting that. They're taking money from them to help do this to us. But the so-called small hats don't consider themselves white supremacy. They think that they are different. That's what y'all don't get. They think that they think that their religion constitutes their race. You understand? Just like Arab people believe that their religion is basically like their race. And so if you participate in their religion, you have to submit to their race. What you think Wahhabism and all that shit is? That's a form of what we would consider Arabic supremacy, Arab supremacy. But so-called Aseer Master existed before Arabs even existed. Yet they got the handle on it, right? They believe that Islam started with them and all this other type of shit, right? Just like they believe they're the original Egyptians. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, everybody believes some shit about themselves that's not even true. And they function as if it is. Yeah, Shiaism would be closer to the original, but even them, they tripping. Them niggas flagellate themselves. Them niggas practice consanguinity. You know what I'm saying? Like they in marry with themselves. Like, everything we read about ourselves or our culture comes from somebody else's understanding of what it is. Like, there's a thing where the Israelites and the Hebrews say that the Moabites and the what you call it was practicing incest and inbreeding and this and that. All of this is coming from the people who wiped them out and took their culture. Think about that. Everything you know about these ancient cultures come from the people who wiped them out and assimilated their culture and then acted like they was the original ones to do it. First of all, melanated people are the most genetically diverse people on the planet. You understand? We're the most genetically diverse people on the entire planet. So consanguinity was not a part of our practice. So you know what they did? They forced melanated people during the internment, when we was in the internment camps from these niggas, right? They forced them to they would put bags on their heads, on the prisoners of war heads, and then force them into pens where they would force them to have sex with their mothers and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? This is the stuff they did to us. So a lot of that shit, when they talk about, oh, you know, that they was practicing, no, this is what they forced their prisoners of war to do. We didn't do that. We would just kill niggas and keep it moving. No, these niggas, they want to actively break down genetically what happened. And so for a certain generation, our people would then, they were doing this to try to breed insanity in our genetic line the way that it is customarily within their own line. You understand? They were doing it to do that. The problem is we, again, are the most genetically and the oldest genetically diverse people on the globe. So after 2-3 generations of that, right, by a generation and a half after that, all of that was done. We had bred that out of ourselves. That's why it's so important for us to know who our parents and them are today. Meanwhile, these crackers, these so-called deviant crackers, right, that's talking this shit, these niggas is literally cousins to one another. Because they're not as genetically diverse. They cannot create. They can only create one of their own with one of their own. So what does that say? That says that they are genetically inert. A white man can only produce another so-called white man or white woman with a white woman. I can produce whatever type of child I want to have in any race on the planet. That is the difference between genetic diversity and recessiveness. So all of this, oh, the Moabites was evil and they was genetically recessive and they was practicing incest, and all of this is again cracker logic, cracker information that's coming from people who are genetically, right, recessive. So recessive that they themselves are not producing to the level that they need to in order to sustain themselves as a so-called culture. That's why you get all of these crackers and these devils now trying to come into our space talking about us and what our history is, because they don't have one of their own. You understand? They don't have one. So you gotta come talk about us. You gotta come talk about what you feel our history was and all of this by watching videos of us talking about it, creating crib notes and shit, and then going back to your platforms and then trying to do that. You gotta do that because you don't have a history of your own. You don't. Everything you do, you got from us helping to create you. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Frankenstein wouldn't exist without the scientists, right? So the story of Frankenstein is not even about the monster. It's about the true monster who created Frankenstein. The story is about the scientist, not the result, right? Not the hybridized demonic. Yeah, it was about Victor. Not about the hybridized devil that Victor created. That was the afterthought. That was the afterbirth. That was the scum, right? That Victor was, that helped create that. You understand? So it's laughable when I see them come in our spaces trying to talk shit and all of that. I encourage it. Because again, it's proof of the fact you have no culture to speak of on your own. Therefore, you are then saying, by doing this, proving what I'm saying. That you feel that we're superior to you. because you have no history of your own to make videos and things on. See how it works? M. Shaw Rothschild. See this nigga right here? This is a passing black man. This is a self-hating, bleached out black man. Passing. These are decoys. The biggest devil is the one in the mirror that you don't deal with. The physical manifestation of it that comes after is the afterthought. To throw you off of the fact that no, Yakub, you're the one that created this situation. You know what I'm saying? One of the things that they're doing with the killing of the Palestinians and these types of things is they are using blood of these people, of these children that they're being, and they're literally laying the foundation of these buildings with their blood. Think I'm playing? Look at this. They are literally putting the blood of children in buildings. Okay? This is why human trafficking and these things is going, because this is, again, their religion. This is what they believe that they have the right to do. Like when they ground up the children and put them in the matzah bread and shit like that. Like this is part of they practice. And they use different blood types based upon what type of building or whatever they building. So when they said that they use the bodies for the foundations, like that's real. What do you? There's no cemeteries in Gaza. Think about this. There's no cemeteries in Gaza. There's no way for you to find all of the dead bodies of everybody that they done bombed and killed out there. So when they start digging up the mortar and they start digging up all of the stuff and the people out there, what do you think they're doing? And they reprocessing the stone and the debris to create more bricks. What do you think? You think it's just rock and rubble? No, it's people in that. It's people in there. The Cemex Egypt employed blood drive. Look, community development program. A blood drive was organized to the regional blood transfusion center. The theme of the blood saved a life. Employees received the awareness session on blood donation eligibility procedure and all donated blood, right? Look at the U.S. patent. Use of blood in cement, mortar, and concrete industry for obtaining a lightened material. You see this? Look, this is the patent for it. Look at the name. Steinbau. Harrison. Gaylor. Right? Abstract. The present invention relates to the use of blood in the construction of building industry, whereby blood and extracts of blood containing hemoglobin are used in the entraining colloids, and recommend process for preparing a lightened material consisting in associating a construction element chosen from the cements, mortars, and concretes with at least one air entraining colloid chosen from whole blood globules, red blood corpuscles, and hemoglobin. The invention also relates to the lightened material obtained according to this process. Ask yourself this, where are they obtaining the materials for this process? You think they're the only ones doing this? Why do you think when you go into certain buildings, you can just feel it just heavy and just evil? Because the buildings are built with people, with children's blood. Cimex. This is what these devils is doing. This is what these wars are about, y'all. You are at war with principalities and powers and people in high places. All of the evil is above us. You haven't met nobody evil that's not connected to this thing. Why you think they need these wars? Why you think the human trafficking thing ain't gonna stop? Why you think Planned Parenthood is still in business, making all of this money? Why you think they doing this? When the whole thing happened with Meg, right? Or Joshua, depending on what you believe, when the whole thing happened with them or him, he wound up donating to Planned Parenthood. Right? This whole thing happened, right? This time, now, she done donated to Habitat for Humanity. Think about that. And why that's a problem. Look at this. This is AI. Now, the thing with AI, like I said too, is AI is a damn liar. AI will, you can train it to go along with your realm of thinking, and it will come up with stuff that's just there to support what you're thinking. So you gotta always go back and forth with it. Because it is a liar. Because it doesn't exist in this physical plane. And again, it is all coming from these D-Wave computers. So you can't just always take it on face value, the shit it be saying, because like I said, it be lying. But look. Israel National Skin Bank, established in 1986 under the Ministry of Health, and the IDF Medical Corps, is recognized as holding one of the largest and frequently cited as the largest repository of stored human skin. Despite a relatively low rate of domestic organ donation, Israel has accumulated a massive supply of human skin. So if there is no donations coming from the human skin, how do they got the most human skin in the world? You're dealing with psychopaths, y'all. You're dealing with people who are ghouls. Where they getting the skin from? They confirm that the organs and the skin were removed from deceased individuals, including Palestinians and Israel soldiers, without family consent. While the Israel authorities have stated that such unauthorized harvesting stopped in the 2000s and have tightened regulations, allegations surrounding the origins of the skin have persisted. Of course they did, because this is why they have to continuously go to war. Because they have to fund their ghoul-based economy. And these Negroes are down with it. They're paid to go along with it. So I say, yeah, I'm saying you Habitat for Humanity, right? Planned Parenthood. We already know that that's all about white supremacy, so-called black uh, abortifacts, and getting rid of as many melanated families and children before they're born as possible. So that way, Planned Parenthood can then take them organs, take them children, take the aborted fetuses and all of that, and sell it online. So that way they can buy Ferraris and shit like that. Like there's already clips like that all over the internet with people who work there saying that that's why they encourage it. So we're not even talking about speculation. This is already proven fact. Okay. How do they get them? Well, they'll use companies, hotels. Type in how many hotels right now are being investigated for human trafficking. Look, Walmart has faced various accusations related to human trafficking, ranging from legitimate legal actions against the global supply chain to viral social media hoaxes. But you just notice various accusations ranging from legitimate legal actions, which means that they've been proven that they're doing it. Supplier lawsuits. Walmart has linked lawsuits involving overseas suppliers. For example, a California federal court allowed a human trafficking lawsuit to proceed against companies that supplied seafood to Walmart. The suit alleged that Cambodian workers were recruited under false pretenses and subjected to forced labor and debt bondage. Habitat for Humanity, which was set up by Jimmy Carter and them, right? Based on the available reports, Habitat for Humanity has not been found guilty in a court of law for building homes with asbestos, while individual localized issues involving containments and safety violations in older rehabilitated homes have occurred. There is no evidence of widespread guilty verdict against the organization regarding asbestos, but 2025, a lawsuit involved a property owned by local Habitat affiliate that had both methamphetamine and asbestos contamination, with the affiliate struggling to secure funding for remediation. Florida construction issues. Florida Habitat for Humanity developed faced criticism for being built on former dump sites with reports of mold and construction defects, but this was centered on the constructional site, not asbestos installation. Okay, so y'all niggas will build houses for poor people on top of junk sites, right? Garbage waste sites and everything else. So again, this is what I'm saying. All corporations, it seems, are made to help facilitate the murder of people. I was just watching this thing today on Dave's Bread, and they said they found wood chips in it. And this is supposed to be an organic bread. But they done found wood chips in the bread. The lady said, oh, well, at first I thought it was like grain or something. Then I looked and checked. No, it's straight wood. So if all of the food that they're making is here to kill us and nobody seems to be going to jail for it, what does that say about the society itself? It is being run by genocidal maniacs, cannibals, right? People who do not really have the right to even exist as people. Yet, nothing's being done. Yeah, wood chips in the organic bread. Yeah, but it wasn't like that. Once the private equity firm bought Dave's, it was a wrap. Whenever private equity comes in and buys anything, you already know whatever they was doing is over. Now the objective is to kill you. And they're willing to pay certain fees, you know what I mean, as a cost of business. So if they get caught, they know, okay, well, we got at least $1 billion in the bank just to be able to pay for whatever it is we get caught in doing. That's what they call the cost of doing business. Every industry is doing this to us. Is the government stopping it? No. They're all down with it. Democrats, Republicans, they're all with it. They're all down with it. Anybody that gets into politics like that is dirty. You understand? They're automatically dirty. You got to assume that. Because anybody that will go to a place where you know these people are doing these things to people and then talking about how you're going to go in and change that, you're a liar. You're a liar at this point. You got to go in with no backing, nothing. Only the so-called people. And then once you get there, we still got to watch you. They just did a study on the jab, right? And they found that it has a 55 percentile death rate. More than any other so-called jab, vax, or whatever in history. This thing was made to kill people. Straight up. Look it up. 55%. It's also from Facebook. See, Rockefeller University. The present invention provides the methods and compositions for remote control of cell function based on the use of radio frequency waves to excite nanoparticles targeted to specific cell types. The nanoparticles may be applied to target cell extracellularly and expressed intracellularly. The cell type of interest expresses a temperature-sensitive channel wherein excitation of the nanoparticles results in a localized temperature increase that is transduced into the cellular response. So when you see these people just dropping dead for no reason after they get the joint, they basically may have been activated, right, through radio frequency, or wherever they was at, the radio frequencies was so high that it excited the nanoparticles and just basically shut them down. Now, the small hats developed a method of assassination where they used what do you call it? Where they used cell phones, like how they did Johnny Cochran. They hit Johnny Cochran with that cell phone and blew him up. They were doing calculated hits where they activated, where these niggas, in order for them to do this, they had to get into the actual building of the cell phone, which means that they had to get into the factories where the cell phone was being developed, and somehow was able to get it into get into the network, meaning that they couldn't wait for the cell phone to be built. They had to go where the cell phones themselves were being built, meaning they had to get into the factory floor as it was being assembled to put in the right digital components that would allow them, after the cell phone was created, to be able to activate it to kill their targets. Remember in the movie Ocean's 11, when they had to get the dice, when they was trying to rig the dice, so they had to get the magnetic die in the dice, so they had to go all the way to Mexico into the company where the dice was being made. They had to incite a communist riot inside of the factory so they could get limited control of the factory. Then the operative, right, was able to then get the die into the dice, and then they was able to get the dice where they needed to go. This is the basis of what I'm saying, how far these devils are willing to go to murder you, to murder elements of humanity, because their religion is murder. You understand? The supremacy is really existing. It's not white supremacy. It's not small hat supremacy. It's not none of that. It's death supremacy. That's what you're against. That's what you're up against. People who worship and practice death. That's the only type of supremacy that these people follow. All of the other stuff is incidentary. That's all marginalistic, tribalistic shit that they're trying to get you to believe is the forefront, the focus of it, when it's not. It is a death cult. For real. You're dealing with death supremacists of all colors, of all nationalities, that are being led by the high priests of this, who happen to be at this time the so-called small hats. You understand? But they are just functionaries of this thing. They are all corrupt on every level. Look at this. They're all operatives. Praz from the Fugees is going to jail. He is the only one in the American side, other than the Chinese national that he was working for, who was a spy for China. He paid for the movie Wolf of Wall Street, and they used that movie to perpetuate blackmail operations on all of the operatives and people who were involved with the movie that helped fund it. The guy who did it was an actual Chinese agent, and Praz was one of his intermediaries. Now, if you're a foreign agent, you have to register as a foreign agent, meaning that you have to register with the State Department that you are working in this country on behalf of a foreign government, which to me is crazy. I don't know how you can allow someone, especially your enemy, people who you say is your enemy, to come into your country and do business in your country while you yourself is saying that these people are your enemy. It don't make sense. But if you got enough money, see what I'm saying? The capitalists will let you do it. So this nigga Praz was used as a mule to go into different elements of Hollywood to try to get all of these niggas down with coming on board with this dude. And then once they were down, dude was then using elements to blackmail them, whether it be with the children, whether it be with the baby eating, whatever they was doing, to help, like I said, facilitate that. So it all wound up coming out. Leonardo DiCaprio, a self-proclaimed cannibal, right? He proclaimed this about himself in the Epstein file. He said himself that he's a cannibal. He didn't go to jail. He took all of that money because the Chinese agent couldn't give the money to Barack directly. And remember, this nigga Barry is already a billionaire through his Indonesian stepfather, who was a part of the Khmer Rouge, who killed all of them people in the killing fields when the Khmer Rouge was running shit and was working with CIA. So they couldn't get the money like that, so they had to put the money into different things. So one of the things that they put the money into was the Wolf of Wall Street and other movies. So Praz was the one that was setting up the party, setting up the meeting, setting up all of that. And then the extra money, they was able to use shell companies to then funnel that money to this nigga Barack's campaign through straw man donors. When it all came out, this nigga Barry didn't give them the money back. Yet and still he not being investigated. The only one going to jail is who? Pras. See? See what I'm saying? All of these niggas at any given time can be turned into operatives for the agenda. Because none of these niggas are really who we think they are. That's why in the end they all wind up working together. Same thing. Peruvian Catholic organization accused of $1 billion money laundering scheme tied to the Vatican. Is Leo going to do anything about this? No. Because he been quiet ever since this nigga Donnie outed him with his old tweets. Yes. So when you are initiated into the death cults, one of the things you got to do is murder something. It start with a chicken. You see what I'm saying? It start with a goat. It start with a lamb. See what I'm saying? It start with a dog. It start with a cat. You see what I'm saying? It start with all of that. But anytime you as an individual are going within the so-called unseen realm and you are striving to commune with these so-called spirits, right? That you have no idea you are really communicating with. You may think you are, right? And these things can take different forms. So if you want to do this to Ishu or to Ifa or whoever, it will turn itself into that to make you think that's what it is. But you have no idea really what it is. You don't. And if you say you do, you're a liar. You're a liar. It can come and tell you anything. And because it's coming from a spiritual perspective, you are prone to believe it because you want to believe that that's what you're communing with. That's why you killing this thing and sacrificing this thing in the first place. And then you want more power after that. So you join more orders. You see what I'm saying? It's a drug. It's illusionary power that is not real, that is based upon your need of acceptance and your admittance to the fact that you feel you have none of your own. It's a sin by omission. That's why, again, in terms of the Christian, like everybody talk about samurais, right? Everybody loves samurais, love the Spartans and all of these people. The Buddhist monks, the Confucius monks, and all of that. Do you understand that them niggas was all pederasts? Do you know that? You know that, right? You know all them samurais was having sex with little boys. You know that? All the Spartans was having sex with little boys in the Gogi. You know that, right? Same thing with the Buddhist monks, the Confucius monks, and all of that. They always having sex with little boys. Y'all know that, right? They glamorize so much stuff and don't tell you and make you think that these are the most strongest and the most virile and all of that. Yeah, because they was using the essence of little babies. And they were all into killing. Buddhism is about suffering, right? All life is suffering. Didn't I tell you that? They told you that, right? Yeah. The samurais, yeah. They all had little boys that they was having sex with and raising them up in what they call apprenticeship. That's all Freemasonry, man. It's all the same stuff. Same thing they was doing in ancient Kemet. When the daughters would be given up as what you call it to the priests of the temple. What you think they was doing to them girls? When they was offering up the virgins. What you think they was doing? You know when all of that shit got shut down? After the Yeshua thing. Whether you believe it or not, whether you believe in him or not, it's not my Not, I don't care. I'm just telling you. After Yeshua, that whole shit came on the scene. All of that type of shit was getting shut down. So take that as you will. You know what I'm saying? But it's true. All of these manly men going through these wars and going through these things and these priesthoods and all of that shit was based on pedestry. All of that got shut down after the rise of so-called what they're calling Christianity, which I don't even think is really the name of it, because he ain't never created no religion in his own name. You know what I mean? Like, they don't call it Yeshuanity. You know what I mean? They don't call it that. They call it Christianity because Constantine, the black man, the melanated man, right? The pagan, decided that that's what they was going to call it. But the word Eanity mean lack of substance. So again, take that with a grain of salt. All of these data centers that's popping up, right? All of a sudden, everybody was with it, but now everybody's like, nah, these data centers, I told y'all, the data centers drink more water than anybody in the thing. Then what's going to happen is your electric bill is going to go up, and they expect you to pay for it. Meanwhile, the data center itself is getting tax cuts and subsidies, so they don't got to pay it. Who is being cool with this? So it's gotten to the point where states is literally coming out and banning them, which is great. But they're not telling you the whole science on what these data centers really are. All of these data centers is built on top of hubs. What kind of hubs? Hubs that are fueling underground cities. They don't have enough power down there for them. So they got to set them up. Look at this map. Y'all see anything familiar? Look at the hot spots of these data centers and then look at where all the cave systems is at. Y'all don't see a correlation in this? They're trying to use the data centers for twofold things. One, to help power all of the extra AI crap that they trying to ram down everybody's throat. AI is only good for deep fakes and trying to come up with information and try to prove other people wrong. So it's bullshit. Right? And then on the other side of it, they're using it as a means to try to fuel and create them as power generators for the underground, for the 11,000 underground cities that they said that they done finally admitted to you that they have. Because they're all going underground. Here's another map of them. Look at the correlation where all of these things is at. And tell me that this is not what they're doing. This is exactly what they're doing. Because they don't do anything to help anyone but themselves. To your money, to your society, to your understanding, to their benefit. That's why they need the water. This is what they're functioning under. This is what they're using them for. Look at all of the dots. They you might as well lay one on top of each other and you can see. It's a scam. It's another scam. You know what I'm saying? Then when we compare it with the time zones, look at this, with the map of the time zone. Look at how it overlaps. Because they're trying to establish the technarch of the United States, the technocracy. But the United States technocracy that they're trying to create is where every part of the hemisphere has becomes a state within the United States. This was what's his name, Elon Musk and them plan. His grandfather and them from the 40s. Look, they want Cuba to be a state. They want Haiti to be a state. They want Canada to be a state. Mexico to be a state. They want all the whole hemisphere. They want all of that to be the United States. Then that becomes the New World Order. That becomes their way of now controlling everything. But to do that, they need massive surveillance. So this is where the AI thing comes in. See? Skynet. And they done paid all of these niggas off to help them do it. And all of the politicians that's out there are willing to help them do it because they think that they're going to have a place at the table, which they're not. They're all going to be slaves to it as well. Because they're all slaves now. They're all slaves. So why would they care if you're one? They're poisoning their own air. They act like they don't breathe the same air that we're breathing every day. Yet and still these niggas is okay with the chemtrails going around. That's what I'm saying. They're psychotic. They're all psychotic. And we're trying to act like pick and choose which one is good and which one is not. They're all evil. All of them. They're all sacrificing children. They're all buying children. They're all eating babies. This is what they are doing. It's not a conspiracy theory anymore. So now they want to come out and tell you that the aliens, they want to release all the alien files. Why? Because we want the Epstein files. We want all the unredacted names of that. But they're not going to do that. So they're going to try to confuse you and put it out there with some shit we don't even care about. Who cares about aliens? But they got to prep you for the fake alien invasion. Right? Because that's scheduled. That's still on the schedule. Yeah, but the Epstein file release, that's law. They got to do it. But they acting like they don't have to do it. He already signed it into law. It ain't been repealed. They wanted now. He was so against Pfizer and Pfizer being able to come in and do this and that. Now all of a sudden he trying to get them to vote to get the Pfizer shit in so that way they can surveil everybody because they know everybody ain't gonna be with this shit. That's why it's all falling apart for them. You understand? Nothing's working. Nobody believes them. We don't believe you. You need more people. Like that's where everybody is now. It's over. So they got to find a way to try to throw off what the inevitable. You understand? If the Democrats come in again, it's going to be worse. All they want to do is open up. Look at what they're doing to New York, B. Look at what they're doing to LA, B. They want to do this all over the planet. They want to do this all over the country. If them niggas get in, it's going to be worse. They're definitely trying to replace everybody. Everybody that live here. Everybody. So you can't even vote for them to get them in. You understand? Because they're worse. They're not going to be better. They're going to be worse. Because they're two wings on the same bird. We've been saying that. The only reason why Donnie was able to get away and look like he was doing shit halfway decent at the time was due to that was the aspect of the script. But I told y'all, this nigga's a dragon Gemini. It was only going to be a matter of time before he start flipping against himself. This is a book you can get on the Underground Cities, B. See, look, these niggas is ensconced in this nigga's in this nigga's cabinet. This is Peg Seth's one of his Secret Service niggas. Is a straight Israeli IDF operative. They're all compromised, man. There's no getting away from that. There's no anything with this. They are all compromised. But like I said, it has nothing to do with them being white or us being melanated. It has nothing to do with that. It never really did. This is about the death cult fighting against those of us that want to live. That's what it's always been about. So you could be a part of whatever secret society, whatever uh, cult or fetish or religious system or whatever you want to be or whatever. But you're always going to be dealing, especially in the occult elements of that, dealing with elements of you having to justify the fact that you are participating in a death cult. When you get into, just like I said, for instance, with the Freemasonry, okay, great. They not having sex with ghosts, right? That's what you want me to believe, cool. But you still doing the ritual of Hiram, right? Where you got to play Hiram, where you get basically killed. Then you got to agree to then keep everything that you learn from these niggas quiet, right? That's what you believe, right? And then if you reveal to the secrets, they talk about ripping your tongue out and burying in a shallow grave and doing all this other type of stuff, right? That's a death cult. You're doing a ritualistic murder. You're participating in a ritualistic pageantry murder. Okay? So let's not act like y'all niggas is not participants in this shit. That's all I'm saying. Be real with it. Stop acting like, nah, we don't do that. Nah, that's fake. Nah, nigga. I would. How could I know? Because I'm not in it. I can only go by what survivors of it have told me. And those survivors have said the opposite of what you niggas are saying. Okay? Okay? So that's it. Y'all never admitted the fact that the whole war between the North and the South was actually about the Northern and the Southern jurisdictions going to war. Y'all made it seem like it was a war of the states when it wasn't. The North and the South y'all talking about is the same war that y'all been fighting. And that was an occult Freemasonic war, which is why the Freemasons won at the end and encoded all of these buildings, repurposed them for their sacrifices and their rituals, right? And then they consistently make movies about the shit. But nah, y'all ain't having sex with goats. Y'all ain't cutting up chickens. Y'all ain't cutting the heads off of animals and shit and raping children and shit like that, right? That's not what y'all doing, right? Right? That's just what niggas are saying about it, right? That's or better yet, that's just the veil. That's just the shit they be saying to scare people off, right? That's what y'all saying, right? Cool. I wouldn't give a damn no way. Like, everybody think that this nigga is adding on a ballroom to the White House. No, he's building a Temple of Solomon there because they're not going to be able to get it off over there the way that they thought. So they got to have a plan B. So he's trying to turn the other side of the White House into a Temple of Solomon so they could do all of their ball rituals there. Look at the blueprints. They online. It's online. You could go and see it for yourself. You could see it for yourself. He building a giant Masonic ballroom where they could do their rituals in the White House like they ain't already been doing, but specifically built for that. And the infrastructure cannot support it. So that's all I'm saying. It's all a scam. All these dudes is out here tripping. They all are part of the death cult. You know what I'm saying? They all are pagan. They all are doing the exact opposite shit that they say that they are. That's what I know. You know what I mean? I would appreciate it if they was just real and be real about what they doing. Because we already know. All of they people, all of they agents throughout the ages done told you this. Woodrow Wilson, I am the most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated. The growth of the nation, therefore, and all of our activities are in the hands of a few men. See that? We have come to be one of the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled, dominated governments in the civilized world. No longer a government of free opinion, no longer a government of conviction and a vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and the rest of a small group of dominant men. All men who are involved in the death cult, i.e., the Freemasonic death societies. There is no way of influencing men so powerful as by the means of the woman. These should therefore be our chief study. We should insinuate ourselves into their good opinion, meaning manipulate them, make them think that we're the best, i.e., white men, make them feel to the black women that they are the best thing in the world, right? Give them hints of emancipation, which means transfer the ownership of their house, of their families to us by them, from the tyranny of public opinion and of standing up for themselves. It will be an immense relief to their enslaved minds to be freed from any one bond of restraint, i.e., a nuclear family, a traditional family, a man, woman, and child, right? That's a prison for these modern women now, right? Right? Because we want to bring about the matriarchy and down with the patriarchy, right? Not realizing that they were the matriarchs. They was always the matriarchs within it until they decided to become the patriarchy, which is why they have been fooled. He telling you, this White House, he telling you that this is what they doing. Immense relief to their enslaved minds to be freed from any one bond of restraint, and it will fire them the more and cause them to work for us with zeal without knowing that they in doing so, for they will only be indulging in their own desire of personal admiration. Ego. Blavatsky. The Moors were profoundly versed in the occult science of Toledo, Seville, and at the Salamanca, where once upon a time the great schools of magic. Everybody like, oh well, how come we didn't know we was Moors? How come we was only told that we was Indians and this and that? Because they have all y'all niggas under mind control. That's why. because they put death cults and death certificates out there on anybody that told the truth as to who and what y'all really were and are. So that way they could force you into other so-called religions and make you believe that what you are was something opposite. So that way you would take on the inferior designation of Indian that was brought about in I-621, and therefore you would then be under that jurisdiction and then go against anybody who looked like us that was telling y'all the truth of the fact that they put all of y'all under the Masonic oath, and that the people in your family that knew, who went along with it, did it for whatever their personal reasons or whatever was. Don't believe me? Look. What's that? What's that? One of the Moors who come to the class sent me a clip. He in Morocco right now. Sent me a picture, and they got this in front of the mosque. At the mosque, this shit is up in there. So what are they? So again, what are you telling me? All these Moors who are under the veil of Indians, because that's what they got to go along with in order for them to basically still maintain what they have, but then the real signs of who they are is wrapped up all in this shit. And for all of these years, everybody been telling me how great this thing is, but nothing that I have seen this thing involved with has ever brought our people any type of liberation. None. None. Except glorifying y'all egos and y'all fantasies about being somehow more smarter than everybody else that's not it. When all it seems to have done is made y'all participants and brothers with all the other niggas that's under that sign that are part of the death cult. Tell me I'm wrong. Like, show me how I'm wrong. What has any of this done for us? Nothing. What is keeping all of them secrets that y'all allegedly got has done for y'all? Nothing. What is being a part of the order of Shriners or the Jesters or any type of religion, whatever? What has it done for us? Nothing. Nothing. My uncle told me it was the worst thing when he went and he see what I had to, what they wanted him to do. He said, I ain't gonna be down with that shit. I'm gonna go back to the streets. My great uncle, bless the dead, served 25 years in Sing Sing. He told me same shit that white boy I told y'all last week was saying. When I was 15, this nigga told me this. You understand? So what? I'm gonna believe y'all niggas? I'm gonna believe what y'all say more than him? No. No. Because he was honest with everything about who he was. When he was a heroin addict, when he was a drunk, when he was a criminal, all of that. Never hit it, never did nothing. Always said, this is not how you're supposed to be. Don't follow me. But definitely don't do that shit. You understand? So anything else is just y'all covering up for your brothers. And again, this ain't a bashing anybody that's involved with that. You want to be involved with that and you not doing that, cool, man. Cool. But don't try to laud to me how much, it's not that and not this and not, unless you're willing to give up what it really is. And you can't, because they'll kill you. So there lies the rub. You know what I'm saying? That in itself lets you know that ain't something for free people to be in. Because a free man don't need to be raised up by another man. A free man who know who his God self is don't need to be acknowledged by no other man other than the man in the mirror. This is what y'all doing. This is what y'all be trying to do. Go around this damn idol 7 times and then you know how many people die? Y'all need to Google that. How many people die every year when they go to Hajj? Look it up. The number go up every year. Every year they have it, more and more people die. Yeah, look it up. Those are all sacrifices, B. Abraham ain't built this thing, but that's what y'all believe. So cool, man. But don't try to enforce that on those of us that know better. That's all I'm saying. Because that shit is a death cult too. They're all death cults. They've all been taken over. They're all Freemasons at the top. All y'all niggas is working for the same demons, man. But again, this is just my opinion based upon all the research I've done on it. You know what I'm saying? But if you find yourself justifying and trying to, oh, he don't know what he talking about, he this, he that. So you know that for sure. For every lodge on the planet, right? Every priest on the planet, every brother on the planet, none of them niggas is doing what I'm talking about, right? Right? That's what y'all believe, right? Nah, this is y'all brothers. This is who y'all niggas be chilling with. And they don't even like y'all niggas. This is what they did. This is when they was kicking the last more out of the castle after they done took over and put on all of the robes and shit that was already in there. Look at how they got him in the headlock. Laughing at us. This is who y'all niggas is trying to be is who y'all share y'all morals and dogma with, right? Cool. Just don't act like y'all don't. That's all I'm saying, B. That's all I'm saying. Be real all the way through, man. That's all I'm saying. And don't hate on us if we not with it. Don't try to look down on us if we know that that's not the way to go. That's all I'm saying. Say whatever you want to say about the Moors and whatever you want to say and come up with all your bullshit. At least they was in the open. They was outside like this at a time when everybody else was trying to be black and trying to assimilate and trying to join up and create other cults and order. They was in the open. So much so they had to shut it down. They had to find people to come in and shut it down. And they still using these white devils and these black devils today to keep doing the same thing. But all that says to me again is if y'all niggas is kind of these white devils is doing these videos about Moors and how bad and this and that, that shows me that y'all niggas understand that you have no culture. You have no history. You have nothing of your own to build with. So you got to talk about us. You got to be on our dick. You got to constantly talk and try to cast stones about shit that we don't already accepted and done been through, which is why we're here today remaking that, which is why we're today accepting all of the negativity and shit that happened in our past and actually doing something about it today. You know what I'm saying? What are you doing? Nothing. Sitting back watching what the fuck we doing. Like a nice hybrid devils, like nice hybrid devils are supposed to be, like little monkeys, that's sitting there mimicking, trying to figure out how we live, how we do what we do, how we can still be here and still say that we're this and that with no uh uh confusion about it. Because you can't be a man and not accept the darker aspects of your nature. You can't. The only way you can be a man is to accept both sides of your nature, accept your history, good and bad. So once we do, there is no power for you to use against us. You see the beauty in that? Meanwhile, you have no culture. Your people going extinct. You know what I'm saying? You come from a group of cannibals, a culture of cannibalistic underground humanoid dwellers, chuds. You know what I'm saying? Yup, monkey see, monkey do. That's right. So, lastly, before we close out, one of the things they doing also right now is trying to do movies. These movies that are basically putting it out there that so because the Epstein files and all of that shit has been so prevalent and everybody know what it is, they've been putting out these movies over the years that's doing that, but they're really gearing up for the new ones now. So one of the biggest ones right now, they done franchises is a joint called Ready or Not, right? And they're always using females. And I told you why. We just read why. What Adam Weishaupt said. Making you feel the females are the ones protecting the family now. The females are the ones who are stepping up against the horrible men when they're the ones birthing these niggas. They're the ones in the rituals, the Mothers of Darkness coven. Look them up. They're the ones doing the rituals against these niggas. Right? All of these movies with the females, all of these fake Kill Bill type movies. Right? All of them are dealing with these subjects, that these Epstein subjects, these ritualistic killings, and these rich families that get together to ritualistically sodomize and rape people, all in the name of their fake Satan or Baal or whoever. That's why all of these movies is like this. There's another one coming out with Vivica Fox, in which you got two black women who are on a mission to kill their black father, because the black father allegedly burned the black mother, whose name is God. The mother in the movie name is God. So she sent her broken daughters on a quest to go kill their black father. This is the sick, degenerate shit that they are, again, programming women to be into, to promote more death in our community, more distrust between the original man and the original woman. Yes, exactly. And Vivica Fox was in Kill Bill, exactly. This is an older movie called Society that deals with all of the secret societies and the cannibals in the Hollywood Hills. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of ill. It also deals with the clones and the what you call it faces, and the false faces, the skin jobs that a lot of them are, right? So yeah, this new one, they will kill you. Again, this is also two females, two sisters. Just like this one is two sisters. See? They doing the ritual. And they're always using these light-skinned chicks or whatever. And of course, whenever there's a black man in the movie, now the father can be dark-skinned, because we got to kill the dark-skinned man. Whenever they have movies with melanated women now, it's always light-skinned women who are usually gay or usually with white men, right? This is all social engineering. That's why I'm showing this to you. Always white men, always light-skinned, always gay, right? Because that's how they got it, because that's what they want. They want you to believe that that's the majority. This is what actually is the world is really like, and it's not. All of them are inverted. The ones that look like females are usually the males. The ones that look like the males are usually the females. It's always the opposite, because that is the ritual too. They come from inverted families, because their gods, who are the small hats, believe in the Talmudic theory of Adam Kadmon, right? That's why all of these niggas is having all of these beige kids, and these beige kids is used as ritualistic sacrifices. This movie in the middle is all about cannibalism on an island. They take this nigga to an island. He's a chef, and now he has to prepare human dead bodies for the rich billionaires that's coming there to eat them. Blink Twice, we know, was about, see, another woman, another black woman, where they go to the island and they see this flour. This is the flour that they compress down and make you lose time. See, the camera is black and white. Excuse me, black and yellow. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, right? Because black and yellow, this is reminiscent of trafficking. Why? Because taxis, right, used to be yellow and black, remember? It also represents the bee, the hive, right? The hive mind, right? Remember, symbolism is supposed to be their downfall. Symbolism will be ultimately their downfall, because that's what they're using to control everybody. and making you think it's just a movie when these are really just how-to manuals to control society. You understand? So yeah, this is how it's going, y'all. This is what we're dealing with. So again, y'all could be in whatever type of religion, whatever type of order, whatever y'all want to do. But don't try to act like you sacrificing elements of your soul is somehow making you more spiritually enlightened than anybody else, because it's not. It's doing the opposite to you, and you fooling yourself, and that is the ego. That's how it works, y'all. It's a trap. You don't have to murder something other than your ego and your lower self to reach your higher self. You don't have to pledge your honor and your dignity to ghosts. You know what I'm saying? In order to be free, in order to gain some sort of enlightenment. It's all a trap. Because in the end, you become a part, you or man becomes the food for the divinity that he worships. You understand? Always. And these men are sick. You heard? They're all sick, yo. So, anybody have any questions before we close out? Good or bad, all of these niggas is on the same gang. You know what I'm saying? Remember that song, They All in the Same Gang? They all in the same gang for real, bro. Two wings on the same bird. So don't let your ego get you caught up and have you out here doing shit that has nothing to do with you reaching your higher self. You are only responsible for what you do. So when the great getting up morning come and you are brought before your creator, and he asking you, well, why you was able to go and do all of this type of stuff and murder my creations and shit, you can't be about, oh, well, that's what the order said we needed to do. To nah, B, that ain't gonna fly. That ain't gonna fly, B. You can only be held accountable for the shit that you do. I think it's going to continuously go to a point where they're going to continuously talk about it crashing and keep, because they got to keep it going. They've already declared the bankruptcy. They've already done what they need to do. Like, it's continuously crashing always. So I think the point of it crashing is for it to continuously crash. So they always have a thing, because once it formally crashes, they have to commit. Part of the plan is to keep the plan going. So if they have to commit to it to a certain degree, it's going to force them to now have to ramp up shit that they may not be ready to deal with. So the illusion or the idea of it crashing is somewhat more powerful than it actually crashing. You know what I'm saying? The idea of the threat is sometimes more powerful than the threat itself. It's all social engineering. Keep you off balance. Keep you think it's coming. Remember they was going through the whole thing when Trump was the savior? And they said, well, just keep watching. Get your popcorn. Get ready. It's going to happen. We're going to see them get locked up and this, and that. And then it just never happened. Keep waiting. It's going to keep happening. Everybody is getting killed. They did everything in Guantanamo. That may be true. But have we seen any element of it other than, and if that's the case, then why they still putting the human decoys out here? See what I mean? It's the idea, the carrot that's dangled in front of the horse. That's what they need you to do. Keep being invested. Stay invested. See what I mean? That's more powerful than them actually committing to actually destroying it. Because if they actually destroy it and they actually gotta commit, and they don't want to commit to an actual event. Because then they actually have to do something. They actually have to make it work, and they don't want to do that. It's more advantageous to keep the idea of it happening more than it actually happening. At least that's my opinion. So they're going to keep it going for as long as they can, until the people finally say they had enough. Any potential connection to Spirit Airlines to the Iran? Yeah, they want to keep everybody on the ground. That was single-handedly destroyed by the socialist congresswoman or man, Elizabeth Warren, the fake Indian. She pulled the kibosh on that. All they was trying to merge with JetBlue, and it would have been great. But as a socialist, this bitch wanted to destroy it, and in the process, destroyed everybody's job. So now that's one less airline people got, because they don't want people traveling. They don't want people to have freedom. They don't want people to have real cars and movement and be able to have freedom of choice, because they all communists. They're all communists, yo. Socialism is evil. Mandani is evil. Liberals, socialists, liberals, communists, they're evil. They're hypocrites. They're a part of the death cult. Nobody has killed more people in the world than communists, bro. Yeah, they was trying to buy Spirit, and she destroyed the deal and forced all of these people out of work. So that's one less airlines that people have to use that was affordable enough for the common people, because it's a war against us. We are the enemy. Once people understand that, shit would be a lot easier. Anybody else? All of them. That grocery store shit ain't gonna work. It's gonna collapse the economy even further. It's gonna just New York is gonna look like the movie Escape from New York by the time he's done. It's gonna be totally unlivable, just like California. That's the goal. That's the communist goal. Meanwhile, he's gonna keep all of his money. He's a millionaire. He's a millionaire himself. He ain't giving up his money. He ain't giving up his estate, his apartments, his properties. He's going to run it into the ground, and all of those people in New York who voted for him deserve what they get. They only right now just dealing with the D theft, and that's only coming out because the Republicans threatened to do something about it. So now he got to act like he's trying to look out for black people. Yeah, like I said, Epstein's still walking around here like it's all good, and ain't nobody saying nothing to him. They trying to get him on podcasts. Like, this how sick these niggas are. If not him, it's one of his body doubles. So all we can do is what we've been doing. Building on it, setting up contingencies, keeping it moving, not getting caught up in the distractions, and not allowing people to dictate who we are based upon all of they fake knowledge about who we are. because they have no culture themselves. It's either two Epstein's, or it's actually him, and he's just got the plastic surgery, but he's always in the places owned by the original one. So why wouldn't it be him? Ain't like nobody gonna run up on him and do nothing, because people are that brainwashed. You understand? It's about what we're gonna do. It's about establishing things for ourselves. And then inshallah, if we have to collectively coming together to do something about it outside of the internet, so that way none of these bullshit niggas shut us down. And not having somebody that's pledged the oath to something else be there to sell us out. Anybody else? Okay. So again, thank you guys for coming through. Thank you guys for the support. Please check out www.aseertheducateers.com. Please subscribe to the YouTube page. I definitely support it. Definitely, if you can, become a member. Please check out the ADOT app. Also, check out www.cordobaorganics.com. If you haven't already, please sign up for the ADOT app. It's right now. It's on Google and Apple Play. And if you guys want to do any type of consultations or lecture bookings or anything, hit me up at houseofel at hotmail.com. Anybody want to send a donation, you could do so through Cash App to money sign capital DS418.com. Again, I really appreciate you guys' support. And if you need anything else, you already know where to hit me up at. All right? Peace. Indeed. Yeah, and look up the stuff that we talked about tonight so you can see for yourself. All right? Perconi Malut Laudibus. Pax et Amor.